Fann, the preacher man, inviting you to join my co-host and I, Pastor Shannon E. Jones, each Tuesday right here on Straight Talk from 7 p.m. until 8 p.m. And if you'd like to call in and join the discussion, you can call 470-251-0349. That's 470-251-0349. And if you'd like to be a guest on the program, we'd love to have you. You can email us at straighttalk1362@gmail.com. That's straighttalk1362@gmail.com. It's Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the preacher man, and Pastor Shannon E. Jones.
Hello, this is Pastor Reverend McGarman at Word of Faith Love Center in East Point, Georgia, and I watch Straight Talk with Pastor Fann, the preacher man.
You are now tuned in to Straight Talk Live with Greg Fann, where you are invited to have open discussions of topics ranging from social, political, economics, religious, or just open dialogue. So now, let's get to talking with Greg Fann.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the preacher man, and Shannon E. Jones. We have an exciting guest today. I mean, oh boy, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but you're going to enjoy this program today. Person that's full of information, full of knowledge. That's going to be a part of the program today. I'm going to be sharing a lot of information about what's going on with the election, what's going on in this country today, and what's really at stake in this election. So you stay tuned. We're going to have Shannon there. Shannon going to be throwing people in the trash again. You know, I don't know who he's going to throw in the trash, but you know Shannon, he's going to throw somebody in the trash can because that's what Shannon do. He throws them in the trash can. So listen, if you like to be on the program, you got something you want to talk about, you got somebody maybe you want to put in the trash can, email us at straighttalk@gmail.com. That's straighttalk@gmail.com. Won't you? Well, we'll be back in just a minute with, if I can find Shannon, Shannon, you know, he's always somewhere, boxing gloves, newspaper, coffee or something, always doing something when we get ready to come on. Shannon. All right, we're right here with Straight Talk. I told you, didn't I tell you I was going to have a special guest for you? I wouldn't tell you who it was, but I told you it was going to be somebody that was going to be very informative and on the point. Too much truth with Derek Bozeman. They call him DB. What's up, DB?
Rev, how you doing?
Oh, man, if I was doing any better, man, I'd tell you I'd be eating at your house on a Friday.
Look here, I didn't know if I was coming to a funeral or what. You so shy.
Well, you know, I do it occasionally.
I feel so underdressed, Shannon. Why you didn't tell me what?
He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me.
Dress code.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
Pence was, he had a meeting with Pence this morning.
See, you know, one of the things that I'm excited about this program today, and I'm glad that you with us, honestly, because you are an Atlanta native, and he is too, and I am, and it's very rare that you find three people from Atlanta doing anything, and you've seen changes on top of changes here in this city. As a community activist, as a city council person, and of course you went to that other high school, but I won't even call that name. But but they turn out some good products also too. So Derek, tell us a little bit about Derek Bozeman in terms of who Derek Bozeman is. You know, people hear you on Too Much Truth. People see you out there, fighting for this and fighting for that. Tell us a little bit about your grandmama and them, how they spanked you.
Well, let me say this. First of all, it's an honor to be with you, Bishop Fann, and Bishop Fann and I share a commonality in that Roselle Fann, who's your aunt, taught me everything I know about community. I mean, just to be straight up honest with you, the Roselle fans of the world only show up once a millennium. Extremely special, who saw something in me as a youngster when I was 16, 17-year-old that I didn't even see myself. So Roselle Fann, who had now have recreation center named for her, that should be, street posts and lamps and everything else bearing her name, because that was a woman who gave a full measure of herself to the South Side. But about me personally, and that's really my story, that much of what I learned about organizing came from women in the community. in the Joyland community where I was adjacent to where I was born and raised. But my early days, I'm a native Atlanta, born and raised. I'm a Grady baby. And went to Perkins Elementary School right up the street. That's when you went through the 8th grade, 7th grade. Left Perkins, went to Price High School for 2 years. After going to Price, there's a long story about that because I'm the only Bozeman that graduated in the city of Atlanta that did not graduate from Price. At that time,
shame on you.
I know, right? We had the M to M program, and so the story is kind of goes like this, and it talks about the importance of education. Although I was a 3.5 grade point average student, they told me I had a speaking impediment.
Really?
Yes, sir.
They lied.
And so
Well, you made up for that.
and this is I have to tell the story just quickly. And I was like, what do you mean? So we're going to pull you out and put you in a speech pathology class because when you talk, we can't understand you. So you talk too fast. When you say street instead of street, library instead of library, and all of these words, it is. So I was really being tracked even then. Now, my family has a storied history. We've been in every class of Price, started with my aunt and uncles. But really, I was getting ready to be tracked in a special ed class with a 3.4, 3.5 grade point. And I said to myself, that ain't going to work. And then I was an athlete on top of that. And I said, that's not going to work. At the same time, I get a card to North Fulton High School, which then we were doing the M to M program, the minority to majority. You could go any school in APS. If you were a minority student and they had a majority population, you could go anywhere in APS. So they were heavily recruiting at North Fulton for the International Baccalaureate program. And you only could get in if you had a 3.0 or better. So they were basically taking the cream of the crop. So I went over there.
Sound like charter school to me, but they don't listen to us.
Pretty much. And it was run. I mean, at its heyday, the school never had more than 400 or 500 students. But APS continued to fully fund it with the best teachers, the best equipment, best everything.
What years are we
So
talking
that's
about?
I transferred 82, graduated 84. It was a culture shock. Boy coming from Carver Homes, where my grandmama grew up, Murray Avenue, spent most of my time over in Carver Homes because that's where Grandmama Zora lived, who I talk about. But, the great thing, Bishop, and you'll appreciate this, being of that age and that generation, our people did not have access to school. My father was the oldest of the Bosemans, and so he made it about 7th grade because they had to work fields. They had to work jobs. My grandmother had about a 4th, 5th, 6th grade education coming out of LaGrange, Georgia, but she had a PhD in common sense.
Oh, that's what I want to say. She ain't come. That's what's lacking today. That common sense is lacking.
Look here, you couldn't get anything past her, and then on top of that, she was a spiritualist. I watched the community bring people to her so that she could lay hands on them. Now I'm 5, 6, 7, 8. Wonder why all these people coming to Carver Home for my grandmama to pray for them. So she was a praying woman, and they prayed back then. They prayed till they got the answers. So all of that covering that she was putting on my life, I just thought I was going over there to get a honey bun and get a pork chop or whatever. But brother, she had a word every day, and it made me who I am. And so I go on to North Fulton, finish, run for student council and win that. So a lot happened, but I was competing with other Asian students, white students, the best African Americans, and I wouldn't quit. I just wouldn't. And I was a great athlete as well, and so I go and graduate. The year I graduate, my father used to always say, when you're the youngest of my 6 children, when you graduate, you walk across that Civic Center stage, I'm gonna stop working so hard. I graduated June. He was dead about a month later. And so I said he kept his promise. The other thing he would always say to me, Bishop Fann, that to this very day, this very hour, I never forget. He said, boy, you would look at all of us, boy, don't y'all go out in these streets and mess up our good name. You got a good name. And so don't go out in these streets and mess up our good name. And he made it very clear, I don't pay no bond, and I don't pay no bill, and I don't put up no houses.
I know that's real. That's what they used to say. They don't do
Look,
that.
man, what else could I do? This brother was just, I learned so much, and not knowing when I come to full manhood, I understood why he worked so hard. Could have been easy for him to walk out the door, 6 children, all of us about stashed up a year apart. In fact, my 2 sisters are 11 months. But that's who I am. I'm Jesse's Maddie baby boy. Just that simple.
Hey, listen, I thank you for telling that story and including my aunt in that story because you are the reason that the Roselle Center, the Roselle Fann Center is there. Because when you were on council, you made sure that they named that center after my aunt. And I appreciate that.
There was no other name for it.
Right.
Ms. Fann, again, we come back and do a show on that.
Okay.
Because those people, those seniors, those elders were just made different. When Roselle Fann spoke, City Hall moved. I'm talking about she didn't go see the mayor. Hell, the mayor came to see her. She didn't go see the council person. We all went to see her. Seeking her endorsement, her advice. That's who she was. She was the mother to the community.
I'm glad you're telling him that story.
What happened to you?
What
happened to you? I'm trying to see.
She's always telling me about her
hell happened to you?
She tell me about her wayward nephew, but I'm saying that. I'm telling you, when she passed, and they called me, I was just hurt. You know, but Miss Fann was what, 80 something?
Yes, she was.
But when you look at her, you would not know it. God preserved that woman so that somebody like me could meet her. And I'm not saying that because I wouldn't say it. She was not average in anything she did. And she commanded a level of respect. I'm talking about from Maynard Jackson to Bill Kemp, whoever it was, if it happened on the South Side, it did not move until she either approved it or she said blessing over it. And so when we were building the Southeast Recreation Center and we were looking for a name, the community said there is no other name. And I'm glad we did it while she was alive. She was there for it. And so wasn't afterwards. And so, yeah, we were grateful.
I appreciate you, man. I really do. One of the things that Mom said to me, in all honesty, was that she was proud of me. And she said the same thing she said that your father said to you. She said, as she was getting ready, I went to see her, right? She said she could hardly speak. She said, don't mess up the Fann's name.
Brother, that name, above all, stands for something.
It does. It really do. And Shannon, I'm very much a whole lot like my aunt. Believe that. Don't.
I can see it.
Okay.
He is.
I can see it.
She didn't take no wooden nickels. She know how to sit you straight.
You can say that again.
But then she would call you the next day and say, now, you know, I mean, I was kind of sick, but let's keep working. Let's keep making this commitment. And everything, let me say this. Again, we go back to Ms. Fann. That woman never asked me for anything for herself. She never asked that the recreation center be named for her. She never asked for anything. Anytime she asked, it was about the community. And she mentored a whole group of women, down in the South River Garden area. Taught them how to build their organization up, how to get influence at City Hall. And she was a phenomenal spirit. And we thank God for it.
I appreciate you for sharing that, but I want to talk to you really, Derek, about what's going on in Atlanta and what's going on in this nation.
Certainly.
So I'm gonna let my little young understudy, ask you some questions, because the more I teach them, the dumber I get. But
his words, not mine.
I've been around for a minute. Now, y'all both know them. We have to tell you, we can either end this broadcast now while it's real nice and pleasant, because I don't have any permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only a love for black people. And so situationally, we can be on the same side of an issue, and tomorrow we may fall out, but it ain't never personal.
Right.
And I have some real heartburn about Atlanta.
So you better be careful now.
I don't cover up and say those people. I'm gonna call it the way it is.
He
So
just like
y'all
Greg
wanna
Fan.
proceed
No,
forward,
he
then let
don't,
me know.
don't worry about it. Look at, don't worry about it.
Call
Don't
the
worry
roll.
about Shannon, because listen,
All right, well, go
you
right
know
ahead.
I call him
Now,
out.
ask me anything you wanna know, 'cause
Look
I'ma
at, you
tell
know, you know I call him. I call it the Demon Dome. They
Yeah.
call it the Gold Dome. A lot of
Yeah,
evil
brother.
folks up there, man. Come
You
on
know.
now. You know, I mean, so, but anyway,
So-
go on, Shannon. Ask him whatever you
Well,
want to
first,
ask
I want to,
him.
before we jump into what's going on in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know what you are a communicator, you are an activist, you're a public servant. What activist, politician served as a role model to you, either in Atlanta or in the black diaspora anywhere in the world?
Well, on the political side, man, Atlanta is just so tremendously blessed. But at 16, 17, I met a man who was a preacher, who happened to live in the same neighborhood in Joyland, just adjacent to it. I met Arthur Langford Jr. He was a phenomenal personality. He was the assistant pastor at that time at West Hunter Street Baptist Church. He was just leaving Rush. So I kind of met him in his transition from Rush to West Hunter Street, where he served under Rev. Abernathy. He had a team leadership summit where he was bringing young people from the community. I don't even know how I came to get there. But I was at West Hunter Street. I watched this guy. He was sharp, clean, neat. If you knew Arthur, he had these big whisker-like mustache, handsome guy, and he was very charismatic. And so I watched his leadership style. And after the event, when he said he lived or born in Joyland, I said, well, I live right over here. And it would later come to pass that I would actually work for him. I just want to learn about community. And so I started working in the Joyland community with all the Julia Pearl Smith, Elizabeth Beasley, Miss Moon, and some of the stalwarts in the community. And vicariously by doing that, I meet Arthur. Shortly after meeting him, I meet his brother Mike, who I can say is, I have 3 biological brothers. But me and Mike Langford are closer than even my biological brother. And so I was just happy to carry Arthur's bag. Did not know that, and he was ready for people to be under him, right? And so there were lessons. So I said, I just want to learn. He said, okay, well, come to church. He's a preacher, so go to church. So the one thing I learned, when you're hungry for leadership and you get an opportunity to sit under somebody like that. Now, at 17, I had no idea who this man, the magnitude of who he was, right? The youngest man ever elected to Atlanta City Council at 23 years old, to this day. And so, so there was something about it. And went to Morris Brown, right? Had a legacy at Morris Brown. And so the more I just asked, can I just carry your bag? Can I just, wherever you go, if you got Sunday, I'm an armor bearer, didn't even know what an armor bearer was. I just want to be around and see how you maneuver. And the thing I learned, Shannon, was he was a very unique kind of leader. Because Arthur could walk on ML King and talk to, I can tell it now, Peanut, the numbers man. He'd walk around with a little trench coat on. Peanut can remember, that's before the lottery came up. He'd go down to Auburn Avenue, all the hookers on Auburn Avenue. And these, long time ago, when hookers used to be all over, hey, Reverend Langford, I'm going to do better. And wherever he went, he never made out that that was no difference. Right. Then I would walk in this guy's office or walk into the governor's office with him, sit down with Zell Miller. Across from Zell Miller at this particular time is this gangly, skinny guy who was getting ready to work on Miller's campaign. It turns out it's James Carville. Carville worked for Miller before he worked for Clinton and become a big-time evangelist. Exactly. So you're meeting all of these people, and Arthur's leaving. He's going to Russia. He's going to these different places. But in terms of my leadership style and servant leadership, that man, and I didn't even know it until later, taught me so much about serving people. And I literally watched him because I was close enough to him to know he would never know rich dude, just average kind of guy. But I would see that guy pay people rent. I would see this guy just give folks
out of his pocket.
This man gave everything he had. And that's no exaggeration. And I said, man, this is a different kind of dude, you know. And when he passed, it was a big vacuum. But at the end of the day, in terms of the service that I do now, is because of him.
Have we seen the...
Hold on for a second. I want to stop at this point right here because of the missing murder of children. Because I went to West Holland, so I was there when Arthur was there with the youth conference.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were involved at that point as a kid, as a young man with Arthur, and Arthur was a great guy. I mean, he did a lot of things. I mean when he got shot at Holy Family. I mean, really, and we go way back. But Langford mentored you. And you carried his briefcase, I carried Reverend Abernathy's briefcase, so we were both carrying briefcases.
Certainly.
So those kinds of things really instill stuff in us because we got a chance to get up close and personal with people that we didn't even know we were going to be doing what we're doing.
That's the point. When I would have to wait for him at West Holland, out walked Abernathy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at 79. I'm 13 when the missing and murdered children at his crisis.
Right.
I never knew of his absolute involvement because I'm really too young to
understand.
process it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would meet him like 2 or 3 years later.
Right.
After all of that. But whenever I went to his home, Arthur had this, you know, like most of it, just pictures and all of this stuff that, you know, scenes from, you know, the different searches. And so I would just sit in his home office and just look at everything. He had sticks that he had used that weekend to search and stories about it. So I'm living the terror now.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I'm living right across the street, literally almost from the church on the other side of 75 in Lakewood, right by the Lakewood Amphitheater. And so you get a chance to see this, and you know, you're fascinated by it. And I would later read how involved in searches for the missing murdered kids. And it really, that's why we had the teen leadership institute. 2 or 3 years after that, he's still working with young people to make sure that we were safe, make sure we had still cedar jobs, summer jobs. That's why the summit that I went to was how I met him. But getting to your point, you would go in Abernathy. I'll never forget meeting him because his rap was very slow, methodical in his speaking. I'll never forget the last conversation I had with him. He said, you know, young man, like rap at this point I'm probably about 20, 21. He said, we want to get this organ working at the church. Can you make a donation?
That was him. That was him.
I like, I don't need to come on out here. This man asked me. I'm just a college student. This dude asked me for $100 for the organ. But I'm going to tell him, no, man, that's your organ. I said, yes, sir. So I think I may have put down $100 of my refund check on the organ because
well, we thank you.
I go back home and listen again to Dr. King because I'm a Dr. King fanatic. So was Arthur. When every time he was introduced, Ralph was just really the guy who introduced. He said, this is the best friend I have in the world. So Shannon, at some point I'm realizing I'm 17. I'm sitting here with this guy who's been on city council, getting ready to run for state senate, and is a senator at that point. And he is sitting here with Ralph Abernathy, who Dr. King said is the best friend I have in the world. And I'm sitting here, can talk to this guy about anything. Remember now, Ralph died when he was 64, so Ralph wasn't no older guy.
No, he wasn't.
So the days just sitting there waiting, you get a chance to speak to Abernathy. You meet Jose Williams. Jose was a big influencer of authors. And so the list goes, Reverend Stafford.
WJ.
Told the story. This man was the first mega preacher, probably in the South.
He was.
Had big, 3 huge churches.
He did.
And a nightclub.
And a nightclub. And on top of what they call
that's what it is.
The dial up there.
Was that free for all?
Free for all number 1, free for all number 2,
number 3.
Free for all number 3. And the
club at the same time.
Same down. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh man, I wish we really need to do a biopic on Stafford. Because he was another.
He was.
Yeah, phenomenal leader.
I remember when Reverend Abernathy died, Farrakhan was in town that was the Added Up, April 28th, April 28th,
Add it up. I was there.
1990.
I was there.
And then he went to went to the Abernathy home.
Yes.
And then preached that Sunday, the next day, at Reverend Stafford's church.
Stafford was a great friend of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Okay.
In fact, Khalid Muhammad, who I had the pleasure of knowing
Great Khalid.
very closely, he said the minister in the Messenger loved Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Baptist preacher. Even with these Muslims, at the height of their popularity, when the minister come to town now, most of the place he goes where? The Baptist church.
That's right.
So he had a long-standing relationship with Abernathy, but he had an even better relationship with Stafford. Stafford then would go on the marches and everything. They would come and provide security. But Stafford College tells us the story of Stafford now. Stafford would carry a Bible everywhere he went, big Bible.
What was in it?
And so what Stafford had done was cut out all of the pages, the interior, and just left the edges. Inside the Bible, a snub nose 38.
You know. Well,
he had a snub nose 38. He said, "Now y'all can believe, not have no weapons, but the preacher believe in bearing arms."
I was listening to Farrakhan had said that Khalid, he would always stand behind him with a book in his hand, and he said, "What is this book, brother?"
There you go.
And it was a Bible.
Okay.
And he said to him, he said, "Brother, what is this Bible you always carry?" And he said, "Not just carrying." He said, "Let me see that. Let me see that Bible."
True story.
He opened it up, and his gun was on the inside. He
He
said,
cut out the paper.
"Brother, we have Allah. We don't need that gun." He
said,
said,
"Oh,
"But I'm just gonna
y'all-
hold on
right.
to this. You hold on to Allah. I'm gonna hold on to this."
Absolutely.
But let's this is fruitful, very helpful conversation. We're talking about Atlanta, real Atlanta. But right now we're faced with
Crisis.
a real crisis
Certainly.
during our time
Certainly.
in terms of this political scene. Democracy is on trial right today, and all the work that they did, that we stand on the shoulders of the King, the Abernathy, the Langfords, Mahon, and others. You know, what are they going to say about what did we do at this juncture in history? So what do you see in terms of the political landscape and what's going on today?
Well, let me say this, a couple of things. I love what I'm saying. I love the resistance movement that is growing. There has been no movement of any consequence that did not start in with young people. We talk about Dr. King, the Civil Rights Movement, but it wasn't until the 9, 10, 11-year-olds start filling up those jails. The 4 little girls were bombed in Birmingham. It wasn't 4 grown women. It was 4 little girls. They were all under 13, 14 years old because they too was a part of the movement. These young people been saying, we believe a better world is possible. And so we have to deal with 2 realities. One is we can deal with the Democrat-Republican thing. It's very easy. If you can make an argument for me as a black man or woman, a brown man or woman, even the poor white, as to why the current regime, Donald Trump, deserves to lead this country again. The fact of the matter is we shouldn't even be having an intelligent conversation about the state of these yet-to-be United States of America as it relates to his leadership. Right? And so I don't even argue with people. I just tell our people to go vote. If I have got to convince you, after what you have experienced for the last 3.25 years, that something greater is better, if I have to convince you that he's not a white supremacist, a white nationalist, as a black man who says that there were good people on both sides of the issue, while one group was carrying torches, screaming the Jews would not replace us, and high hell and Hitler, and everything else that is repugnant to democracy. But he thought that were good people. After a young white girl was mowed down by a motorist, he couldn't find it in his heart to condemn that. You will not condemn the murder of all of these, Breonna Taylor, the Tamir Rice, goes on and on and on. So we shouldn't even spend any time arguing about why we need to go to vote. I don't even tell our people our blood has been shed. You know that. Right? So if you're not engaged, and I don't have time to convince you. Now let's get to the leadership within. Because it's easy to look at the national leadership and say they failed us.
Come on.
But let's come into the interior of Atlanta and see the gentrification that is running rampant in our community. the lack of affordable housing. The Atlanta Housing Authority have not built one scintilla of affordable housing in 10 years. Yet we see a rapidly escalating in this very neighborhood. There's a house that I was going to buy right behind this church 20 years ago when I was looking for my house. Then it was $70,000. I said, man, that's just way too much. But now it's over 470. Right? In neighborhoods like this, off of Metropolitan, where the hookers used to stand on the corner.
That's right. That's right.
Right? You can't even buy over here. I'm sure the church is glad because the values escalate, but at the end of the day, you can't buy in here for under 270, 80, 300,000. And so what do you say to grandmama? That's fine for us young folks. Right? I bought my house in 25 years ago for $42,000. They just built the $450,000 one across the street from me. So while I can appreciate that because I can eventually take up my $40,000, it has multiplied 10 times, and then I take my money and decide I want to go to Fayetteville or Arkansas or Mississippi or wherever I want to go with that $500,000 that eventually this house will value at.
If not
but
more.
my mama who lived next door can't do that.
Just can't.
Yeah.
So if she didn't have 6 children who were able to help her keep the taxes on that kind of property paid, guess what would happen? She would have already lost it. And so you got to create some safety nets inside the city. We got to do more than lip service. So the city put $14 million, into a pot to help offset those kinds of issues. $14 million won't cover one street.
That's right.
In
I
these
was going to say, is
gentrifying
that all?
neighborhoods.
That's right.
So what we got to do is increase the homestead exemption, give these seniors some real tax breaks, either freeze their assessment at the current market value and don't let it go any higher. We've got to get more creative. The same kind of creativity that the city council used to figure out how to give a private developer $2 billion worth of tax breaks. Let's use that for the people who stay.
You would be talking about Arthur the blank.
No, I'm talking about Arthur Blank, and not only Arthur Blank, the Gulch Project.
The Gulch Project,
when you
too.
give a billionaire more money than he even asked for, you know you got a problem.
Yeah.
But how did we get from our Arthur Langfords to what we're seeing today? Or let me ask you this question. So take that question, because this is Bishop's birthday today too. So I gotta
didn't know
let
that.
his
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Thank you so very much.
70th birthday.
Yeah.
So I got to give him. I want him to shine today for real.
Lord have mercy.
All right, yes, sir. I want you to shine bright like a candle, brother. How did we move? Or how did the power shift from the Collier Heights Cascade corridor to the Buckhead Business District? Or was that always the reality, and we were just watching marionettes?
Now we got to come on home with it.
Come on.
When I talk about Bishop's aunt,
Okay.
Roselle Fann,
Okay.
Brown Mill Road, before that Plunkett Town,
Okay.
right? Grew up didn't have everything she needed, but worked hard and had a beautiful home. One of the most beautiful homes on Brown Mill Road that she put her work and her heart in. Never gave up, never sold us out. And the problem we have now, Shannon and Bishop, the black bourgeoisie is worse than white folks.
Yes, sir.
And so those Negroes in this town, Atlanta is
Not
not
Morehouse
the town,
men and not-
I ain't calling
not
no
Spell
school,
House
'cause you got
Negroes.
them all over.
Not
These
Spell
Negroes
House
have been, I
Negroes.
told them they must have a factory up near 285 where every day they a train or something flip over and they start running down into the city. And so what has happened, the black elite, the black bourgeoisie, sees Atlanta the same way white folks do. So they want Starbucks. They won't have $1 million condos that you turn in 1 or 2A because they get to say what? Oh, I live in a wonderful neighborhood. We don't have these issues. We don't have people begging. We don't have boys standing on the corner selling water. We live in a growing neighborhood. But Atlanta at its core is that the middle class has been eviscerated. And so you have two extremes. You either have real poor people and people, working class people who have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, or you have people with means, or those like me and Brock Bishop who bought in at the right time. I could not afford no $300,000-$400,000 house.
Bishop.
I wouldn't even look at that house, even if I could afford it, right? I said, no, I wouldn't buy this little small house for no $300,000-$400,000. I'd go down to Fayetteville and get me one with 10 acres around it. And so I think what you have is Atlanta is being now the perpetrating city that it is. I tell you find these Negroes, they drive foreign cars, and you get in the car, it look like a Christmas tree. Every light on the dashboard lit up because they can't afford the car in to get the oil change, the engine feed, the service. We live in a big old house in Cascade. You go to the house, you can hear echo. They can't afford the house and furniture. So right. We are a city of great perpetrators.
Yeah.
We try to drive what we cannot afford, live in zip codes that we really cannot afford to live in, and we have a premium. We put a premium on our PhDs and everything else, and so we live this life of perpetration until a pandemic like this hit now.
Exposes.
And so some of these same Negroes have to come over here deliberately to get a box.
Yeah. I was doing.
Get a box.
We were doing a giveaway, and brother pulled up in a Benz. Say, hey, Rev. And I looked at him and said, hey, brother, how you doing? And just opened. I said, pop your trunk. And so we filled the car up with stuff. Yeah. And the brother said, oh, I was just going to the bank and I saw this and they routed my car this way. Yeah. I said, hey, brother, that's all right. Well, you just got doubly blessed. That's all. But he needed it.
More emphatically, there is almost a disdain for poor people. It's not about how do we move them to the middle.
And that's not the spirit of Atlanta.
And what I'm saying is, Rob Pitts, I used to say, me and Rob didn't grow much when I was on the city council, but he did say this that I remember. He said the budget of the city is the only document that tells whether you love the people or not. Because if it doesn't have a number attached to a line item in the budget, you really don't care for people. Wow. You say, when you look at a city's budget or a county's budget or your own home budget, if your home budget got more than it for clothes,
pragmatic,
than it got for the investment in your children, education or some other things, you're living an unbalanced life. This city is unbalanced. Because, again, if we had a priority, Atlanta Housing Authority on 300 acres of undeveloped land. They sit on more than almost a $200 million cash position with unlimited bonding capacity. And why have they not built any affordable housing? Because people do not think that poor people should have a decent place to live.
Well, we know in Atlanta because when you start talking about Section 8 vouchers and that stuff, if you start talking about affordable housing, and even in the East Point community, when you start talking about affordable housing, people are like, we don't need no affordable housing.
But here's the thing that I always tell people, and I remember when we were developing Pryor Road. Now, all of the things I did on the city council, that is probably the place I'm most proud of, because it's the single most congruent development in the city. We didn't leave anybody out. And so, but we did it. But my mantra doing all of that, we want what rich folk have.
Right.
We just want it at poor folk prices.
Right.
And so the only agency that is able to put together a public-private partnership is the Housing Authority or the City Development Authority. But you don't turn around and give Arthur Blank $300-400 million for a stadium that now, if the Falcons' attendance don't go up, guess who's going to have to pay that bill?
We are, the taxpayer.
Just like we paid for 30 years for Fulton County Stadium because the Braves said they never made enough revenue to pay the bonds. So who was on the hook for it? If I deconstructed the contract that Arthur Blank got here, y'all, these people should be going absolute bonkers. This man will be dead and gone, and his children's children is going to keep making money off the backs of the taxpayers. They have a contract that says that even when he elects to make improvements on that stadium, that it has to be financed by the hotel motel tax. It doesn't come out of his own pocket. It's financed by the taxpayers. And he turn around and pay them back with the revenue that's generated off of that facility. Not for the Hawks, but for everything that comes there. The War Congress Center don't own it. He does. You know, they hold the note, but he owns the master lease. So everything that comes over there, he makes the money off of.
So straight talk. So it sounds like we just got some handkerchief head Negroes.
It sounds like we have some people who do not care. They either are not intelligent enough to really get in, and then we have an electorate that don't know. You know, it amazes me some of the things I see city council people saying because I know the power that they have. You know, they'll make you believe we can't do anything about affordable housing.
Which
We
is a
can't
lie.
do nothing to make MARTA start putting these routes back
Right,
so poor
right.
people.
Mhm.
Hold on now. You totally fund MARTA. You think if the mayor picked up the phone and called over to the chairman of the MARTA board or called over to the CEO and said these buses either need to start running again or the city of Atlanta going to have some problem with this, that they wouldn't start running on all the routes again? Because what we do know, the federal government is paying them. They ain't miss no money.
Well, see, that's what I'm getting at. There seems to be a hidden master plan.
Well, you know what, Shannon? We can talk to Derek all day long,
Yeah.
and he's going to come back again
We got
because
to
he
bring
got a
him back.
wealth of knowledge and information. That's why I told him, you're going to like this program today because it's the too much truth on Straight Talk. But Derek, we're not going to take a whole lot of your time, though, man. Thank you so very much. I know Shannon got a million questions when I ask you and pull that information out of you, that historical
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
Well, you know, both of us have been elected, so we both know the power of elected officials. But the issue is that many people who are elected, Shannon, just honestly, they were not mentored by anybody. They just saw an opportunity to run. Most people that you have in Atlanta that's elected on Atlanta City Council and even in East Point and College Park and some of these other cities,
upstarts.
they're not from here. So they don't have a real love of this city. They don't have the historical information of how we come this far. So Derek don't come back.
We got to
know
bring, because I want to talk about this.
yeah,
There's a master plan.
He's coming.
I want to talk about
He
that.
gonna come back
All
and
right,
talk
all
to you
right,
about
all
the
right.
master. Don't worry
Come
about.
back.
Let me tell you something about Too Much Truth. He come on every day, 4 o'clock on WLK. And 1380.
Yeah.
All you do is turn that down. Then he got a number you can call him, and he'll spit it right on out. The master plan.
Derek both know you can't get to heaven without raising some hell, right?
Well, let me say this. It is our duty. I love where your children fight. It's our duty to fight for our
That's
food.
right.
It is.
That's
It's
right.
our duty to win.
That's right.
We must love each other, respect each other. We have nothing to lose but our change.
That's right.
And at the end of the day, I want our people to be completely free.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the only way we're going to get there is that you have to fight for everything that you get. And then the reality of it is, C.T. Vivian said something to me about 10 years ago that I found to be so true. He said, Derek, we can no longer afford leadership by accident.
My God.
Right? You are going to have to
My
begin
God.
to grow and groom leaders.
Absolutely.
See, what I did not realize at the time that Roselle Fann was grooming,
Yeah.
right? Arthur Langford was grooming me. Ms. Beasley was grooming me. And so when the time comes, they weren't grooming me for when I was 17. They were grooming me for when I got to be 30. I got enough information and love for our people in the community that I couldn't go out down there and be an Uncle Tom. I couldn't go down there and be a sellout.
That's right.
Even if I wanted to.
Yeah, yeah.
And there were many times that I could have done that. But then I had to think, what is Miss Fann going to say? Because she would pick up the phone and call you.
Cuss him
What
out.
is Miss Beasley going to say? And she did. And so we all have to have somebody that balances us,
Yeah.
to tell us the truth,
Yeah.
you know, and so that we can be proclaimers of the truth. And when you do it that way, people will respect you.
They
There are
will.
many politicians say, oh, we don't like what you said, but I said, now what did I say that wasn't true?
That's why he owned Too Much Truth.
Yeah.
But I thank you so much, Derek, for
Thank
coming
you.
by,
Thank you
man.
very
and
much.
giving
Happy
it-
birthday to you.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, man. I really do appreciate you wishing me a happy birthday. Can you give me a little $100 on the organ?
Oh, no,
I'm going to do that now. That's the least that I can do.
Thank you.
1,000.
No. But thank you so much, honestly, seriously, Derek, for just joining us today on Straight Talk, Shannon and I. And we appreciate all that you do in terms of standing up for the people, for the least, the less, the lost, and the left out. And I tell people this all the time because I truly believe that the only way you're going to get to heaven, the only way you're going to get there, according to what Jesus said, is whatever you do unto the least of them, you do also unto me.
Absolutely.
And if you don't do for the least, you're going to hell. And for all you righteous people out there who ain't doing that for nobody but yourself, you send your soul straight to hell. But anyway, Derek, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And we're going to end this section with Derek. You got anything you want to say? No, he ain't got nothing to say. He want to throw somebody in the trash can. That's what he wants.
Did you see
to
where
do.
he brought it home? He started with your aunt, went into it and then he brought it back home, Doc. That's how you preach, Doc. That's how you preach, Doc.
Lord, well,
He brought it home, Doc. He brought it home. He brought it home.
I think I'm going to exit stay right. Can I just get up and
Happy
leave now?
birthday to you. I'm singing happy birthday.
I don't want to hear no happy birthday. I'm happy just to be alive. Thank you so much, D. And we're gonna come back with Shannon, throwing them in the trash can right here. Don't.
Let me tell you something. I had so much respect for 50 Cent. Man, I loved 50 Cent. I loved the trajectory of his story and everything. And then, man, to see the brother make the statement that he just made in support of President Donald Trump. Now, before my conservative friends get upset with me, vote your conscience. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I know that black people are not a monolith. I know that we have black conservatives. I know we have black moderate conservatives. I know we have black moderate Democrats. I know we have ultra liberal Democrats. I'm not knocking who he supports or who he's voting for. That's his right. That's his civic right. But when you say, I don't care that Donald Trump doesn't like black people, I'm voting for him anyway for the issues of taxes, for the issues of money, then I have to look at that from another standpoint. Because my Jewish friends wouldn't say, I don't care that X, Y, and Z hates Jews. Or my Muslim brothers and sisters say, I don't care that X, Y, and Z does not like Muslims or don't respect them. I'm going to vote against my people and my interests anyway. Now, black people have supported 50 Cent because we saw him as one of us. But when you say that you don't care that a president that cannot say, a president that will not say that he's against white supremacy, that he does not condemn the actions of racism in this nation, and says that he's done more for black people than the president that freed us from slavery. He's done more for black people than LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, that gave us the civil rights legislation. You say you don't care that this president doesn't like black people or doesn't care about black people. You're for him anyway for money. Well, that's trash talk to me. And what do we do on Straight Talk? We take the trash out. So 50 Cents today, it is my role and responsibility to open up this trash and put you in the trash. And you're in good company, because the one that you say you don't care what he thinks about black folk, he down there with you anyway. He can't get out the trash because he trades in trash. Bye, Fitty. See you later. So sad. But we're going to send somebody else down there with him too, and that's going to be Vice President Pence. Man, the way this man, this sycophant vice president, who he's just an apologist for this president, right or wrong, and he hides behind the fact that he is a vice president or a man that cares so much about Jesus. He's given his life to Jesus, and yet he is an apologist for one who does the very things that Jesus, his ministry, his mission, his legacy, his church, his work condemns. How can you say that you're for Jesus and you constantly apologize for the purveyors of evil, for those who are unrepentant, like this president, who uses people for his own personal gain and doesn't care what he destroys? as he's going to get what he wants. I saw him on 60 Minutes just apologizing for this president. And the role of the vice president is to be a partner. But I mean, you could just be silent on some things. You don't have to always be the lapdog president that you are. And now COVID is all up in your office. And what are you doing? Traveling around, doing this last stretch on a maskless airplane, leading maskless rallies in states where people are already seeing the height of COVID. So, Mr. Pence, you and the president and this White House, which is nothing but a COVID microcosm of the greater sickness of what's going on in the spread of this nation, I got to put you in the trash. Down there with 50 Cent and the perpetual trash here, your president. So go on down there and defend him in the trash. That's some funky stuff right there.
Your Facebook friends and your YouTube friends, if you'd like to be guests on the program, all you got to do is just email us at straighttalk@gmail.com. That's straighttalk@gmail.com. And listen, don't forget, we only got a few more days for voting. If you haven't voted, do vote. Send in your absentee ballot. Make sure you get them in on before Election Day. Okay? If you're going to do absentee, if you have a mail, make sure you get them to your county election office. And stand in that line, stand in that line, stand in that line. We need a lot of everybody to vote. Democracy is on trial. Democracy is on trial. Whether or not we're going to have a country that we're going to have civil liberties and freedom, or we're going to have a country that's going to be ruled by dictatorship. Okay? So don't forget to vote. If you haven't voted, go vote. And if you don't vote, it don't matter to yourself. Why register to vote and then don't vote? So next week, stay tuned to Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Shannon E. Jones. My name is Bishop Greg Fann. I am a man of faith. I believe in being led by the Scriptures, and I lead by the Scriptures. I believe the soul of America now is at stake. I believe men and women of faith will do the right thing. I believe that men and women in Georgia and elsewhere should be able to jog down the street and not be afraid to be gunned down. I also believe that Georgians, and especially Georgians, should not be afraid of the intimidation or the fear through voter suppression not to vote. I believe that COVID-19 would have been lessened and we would have saved many, many lives had we had a wiser leader. I'm asking you to join me and others, faith leaders. Let's begin the healing of our land. Let's do the right thing. Fann, the Preacher Man, inviting you to join my co-host and I, Pastor Shannon E. Jones, each Tuesday, right here on Straight Talk from 7 p.m. until 8 p.m. And if you'd like to call in and join the discussion, you can call 470-251-0349. That's 470-251-0349. And if you'd like to be a guest on the program, we'd love to have you. You can email us at straighttalk1362@gmail.com. That's straighttalk1362@gmail.com. It's Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Pastor Shannon E. Jones.